Hello, I'm Danilo. This is Italian.oraculum. Welcome or welcome back. I wanted to do a little video about the first tarot for a beginner, considering we are nearing the end of the year and the beginning of a new one. I thought it could be a, a good theme, I would say. So, first, a little bit of YouTubery. Please subscribe, hit the bell button, leave me likes and comments. It really helps keep this channel going and also helps me knowing I'm doing something good. So, when it comes to your first tarot, my opinion, to put it simple, is this: figure out the system you want to follow at the beginning, and then buy whatever tarot you like within that tradition, within that sort of mold. What I mean, so traditionally we have 3/4, if you want, kinds of tarot. We have the Marcel, we have the Waite, which are basically Marcel with the connection to the Hebrew alphabet. We have the Rider-Waite-Smith, we have the Thoth. Nowadays we have also a lot of decks which kind of try to reinvent how we read tarot, but they are specific enough that deck, that those cards work that way. You have to read them that way. You can't really apply too much of it to all decks, so I'm going to pretend they don't exist for this video. When it comes to the Rider-Waite, I have the majors here. This is my first deck. I used to read only majors, so I do not have the minors anymore, but these are the traditional ones. And the Rider-Waite version of the tarot has people doing things and scenery in minors, while the others have something more like playing cards, so a repetition of symbols for the suits, and then of course the people in the core cards. So that's something to think about. But again, the tradition of the meanings you are going to learn first are, I think, what should be your priority, and then figure out what's their incarnation that you like the most, like, or what deck corresponds better to your aesthetic sense, or what you need from a tarot deck, or both in how things are represented, the colors, sorry, the elements. So maybe you prefer people in your cards, maybe you prefer animals, maybe you prefer plain symbology. Whatever it is, figure it out and then buy the deck that you prefer. That being said, I believe intuition has to come into play when we read cards for others, for ourselves, and professionally, of course, and after we have built a relationship with a specific deck or the system of tarot. But I would say that a purely intuitive reading with no knowledge whatsoever of the basic meanings or keywords, of course, obviously related to the symbology used in that deck, it's actually going to limit how you're going to read the cards, what kind of messages and answer you're going to receive. So the elements we acquire by learning the the systems and the traditions and the original meanings of the cards are actually like tiny fragments of informations that then our intuition can kind of put in order and use to open up our readings. So I'm talking about someone who wants to read the tarot as a system and not someone who needs a deck of cards with a good balance of light and shadow, good and evil, positive and negative meanings that's then going to just go with what the cards are saying to them. I'm talking about someone who wants to learn the system of the tarot, has an interest in how tarot are read as a basis. Then of course each one of us has its own, we all have our own styles and our point of strength and weakness and what we prefer to use and what kind of questions we prefer. But anyway, here we have some options, I would say, some examples. So Rider-Waite, these two are based in the Rider-Waite system, these two are based in the Marcel system. This is the traditional thought, but the smaller version. This is a traditional Waite. Once you know how to read them, you know how to read them. Once you know how to read them, or the Marcel, you know how to read them. The thought is its own thing. So basically, the difference of the three is Marcel has symbols related to tarot, which of course are related to other aspects of the occult. The Rider-Waite Smith system is connected to the Golden Dawn and so has I would say a larger number of symbols, more specific symbols related to a specific set of teachings, of philosophies, of studies of the occult, and that's even more so with the thought version. This is the symbologically richer, I would say, but again, it's Western, specifically European culture and esoteric philosophies and schools. So if you don't really care about those teachings, you maybe don't need to learn those symbols and see them every time in your cards. Maybe you're better off with the traditional Marcel or a variation of a Marcel, where of course the Hierophant is a popish sort of figure, but it doesn't really have to be the Pope. Also, there are animal decks, plant decks, plain symbolic ones, as I said, so there are a plethora of different options from where to start. The point is, once you know the base meanings, you can find them in kind of any sort of deck, so you can actually expand your knowledge of cards by starting from the traditional meanings, even reducing them to a single keyword for each card, and then go and see how that meaning, how that message is conveyed in the artwork in that deck. So, to wrap this up, I don't really think there is one specific deck that should be bought to start your tarot journey. I think you should have a really basic and simple, let's call it a database in your memory related to traditional meanings of the cards. coming from one school or the other, or maybe use it, for example, the elemental association in the minors, but not according to the Rider-Waite-Smith version, which keeps the swords as a negative suit, even if it's the suit of mind and speech. They used to be negative in the Marcel because they were actual swords. They represented aggressions, basically. There was no elemental association at the time. That's a layer of esoteric and occult philosophy that is attached to the tarot later. So, for example, knowing that allows you to understand, okay, maybe a Marcel based deck without the figures in the minors is going to actually be more useful for me if I like to associate the numbers and the elements in the minors instead of going swords are evil, cups are emotion, so they can go good or bad, and coins are, or pentacles or whatever, are actually good because it's a resource. Like, of course, I may be over simplifying this thing, but it's something to think about. So, to answer the question, which deck I would suggest for a beginner, the deck you like. My actual advice is this: find the system, the tradition you are more comfortable, you like best. Read about it again. Maybe write down a keyword or a basic meaning for each card, and then use it as a guide to start building your relationship with the tarot, your confidence as a reader, and then allow your intuition to come into play and your ability to read with the specific deck to flourish and go beyond the tradition. That's my advice. Have a basic knowledge of what traditionally tarot is and what traditionally the cards mean, and then both in which specific deck you are going to use, whether it is a thematic mythological one, or a difference in aesthetic, or maybe it's a difference in tradition. This is Eastern Europe, so this is Russian redrawing basically of a classic Rider-Waite-Smith for the most part. Of course, you are probably going to find cards that are quite different when it comes to the artwork compared to the traditional ones, but the meanings still apply. You can compare the traditional meaning and the artwork and then find the connection and know better your card, know better how to read them. That's the trick. Tradition is not your enemy. It's not going to confine in a box. It's going to give you the instruments, the base to start your actual journey with the deck or multiple decks. I'm not going to talk about collecting or having more than one deck or combining tarot and oracles in any way, and that's something for another video maybe. But this is my opinion. It doesn't matter the deck you start with, it matters the system you refer to as a beginner reader. You can of course then study all of them and combining them and deciding that based on the artwork and the actual shape of your instrument you are going to use one or the other, or reference one or the other, or you are going to mix and match no matter what cards you are using. But that comes later. My advice is this: find the school of thought, find the tradition, the system that works for you, learn it at least a little bit, and then find the deck you like and combine the two. So, I'm done rambling. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Again, please subscribe and leave me likes and comments. And I'll see you next time. Bye.